My name is Chris. I run a startup business in Bath called Bardowl, which is an audiobook retailer. It's an iPhone app that allows you to stream audiobooks to your iPhone. It's a subscription service, a bit like Spotify for audiobooks. You pay a monthly fee, you can access as many books as you like. Unfortunately, I'm not really placed to, not really qualified to talk about magazine publishing or newspaper publishing, and actually I'm barely qualified to talk about book publishing. I'm a technologist, and I know about making nice applications for your mobile phone, I know about subscription services for mobile phone, but my passion for audiobook has led me to start a business, which means that I have to deal with book publishers. Yes, indeed. And yes, you did hear that right, my surname is Book, so maybe that qualifies me in some way. I love books. Their ability to the printed word to spread enlightenment and truth, or to lose yourself in a novel, is amazing. They're probably the best invention of the last 1,000 years, so don't get me wrong, I'm a massive book fan. But why are we so wedded to this particular format of the dead tree? My basic argument is that I think printed books in 10 years' time will be looked upon like vinyl records. So there will be this niche thing that people will collect, a printed object, and they'll stick it on the shelf. But I think that's about it. I understand that reading words from a dead tree is a uniquely tactile, sensual experience, but is that enough to save this format? Does the change in delivery of those words really matter that much? How did humans, I think we call them customers nowadays, how did we first react when they changed from hearing about stories, hearing about news from word of mouth, to something that was printed in a mass market kind of way? In the 1930s, paperback publishing was going to kill the hardback book, but they still exist. Their usefulness in things like libraries, it's hard to wear out a hardback book and a paperback book, collecting editions, cookbooks, art books, etc., they all still exist. And that's what, 80 years since the paperback first came about. I do hear that e-book sales have been massively dented by the digital book, the e-book. People go to their Kindle and their iPad and buy the book on the release date instead of going to the shop to buy a hardback book. Interestingly though, I think that digital innovation probably will save the printed book beyond the 10 years that we're talking about in this debate. Print-on-demand services means that you can go to Amazon or a bookshop and order a printed copy of that book. A print-on-demand service, a POD service, will print that and ship it directly to you. So I do think that these physical things, these weird objects, will still exist in 20 years. A few words about what I think this switch of formats might bring about. My own area of audiobooks has been a bit of a pioneer in digital. Digital audiobooks have been around a lot longer than these newfangled things called e-books. Publishers had to shift away from the CD, which was actually a backward step from cassette tape. You can't pause a CD and it stays there forever. You can with cassette tape. But what happened with the shift from CD to digital audiobooks was the format change. So people started to realise they didn't have to package them up into big CD boxes, and this thing called unabridged audiobooks came back. So instead of having a rather badly edited abridged edition, there was a complete unabridged version. And guess what? The sales of those audiobooks increased. And I think we'll see a similar increase in the overall amount of reading done due to digital. The removal of physical constraints, such as I understand it in book retailing, 300 to 350 page limits for a paperback, because apparently you can't stick that on the front table of a bookshop if it's bigger than that, will certainly disappear. And maybe that will change the creative process around reading. And looking at the recent awards in the last 5 years, the increase in size of fiction books seems to be winning awards. But I'll defer to Mr. Topping to talk about book retailing, something that I absolutely know nothing about. We could also see a trend in niche shorter books. So in Japan, they have this thing called cell phone novels. There's a Japanese word which I can't pronounce. Very short piece of fiction that are distributed and often collated into hardback versions when they're successful. Novellas, a Danish startup, has just launched in the UK to great acclaim, with thousands of teenage girls writing stories, and a few boys, and publishing themselves onto the internet through Facebook and mobile phone apps. Often they're just stories about Justin Bieber, so anyway. Back to talking about ebooks. The convenience of instantly being able to access a huge range of books is undeniable. It's scary how quickly you can react to an article you might read, a radio program you might hear, or a tweet you might see. Buy the book on a Kindle or an iPad, and you've spent £8. And also, imagine the global impact and the possibilities that might come about where every person on the planet may own a e-book type device. Imagine if that device only cost $50 to do so, to get that in their hands. Imagine if that device could access the internet from a mobile network, and they could access Wikipedia, or a simple browser. A printed book can't do that. But it's not all good in the e-book world. There's this awful distraction called the internet. It's called wolfing. I don't know if you've heard of this phrase, wolfing. It means, what was I looking for? You know, that thing where you go off and then you get distracted, and about 10 minutes later you go, I had a task to do. Doesn't really happen on the Kindle though, because the browser's shit. But distraction is everywhere, and that is certainly a problem of e-books. So in conclusion, I believe in 10 years' time, mass market printing of books will be over. I think printed books will be looked upon like the vinyl record is today. Yes, there will be some niche genres where the tactile nature of a book will be a requirement so that a short print run will happen. I think there will be this print on demand surge. And I think in fiction, in 10 years' time, 10% of books read will have actually been read from a piece of paper. So only an increase from today down to 10% of today's numbers. And if that's the case, what does this mean for the economics of printing? Like vinyl records, what premium will these collectors, these niches, be willing to pay to have those words printed on paper? I think printing presses will still exist, but they'll look a hell of a lot different from today. Thank you.